Hello there. Welcome to Champions Cube 8, the Day 2 draft. We're drafting the Cube of Ultimateness, made by Slight himself. We will be following Slight's draft this time around. He was the #1 seed for this season, coming into this event. One of the 4 players to get the Day 2 bye. The way the event works is we have cube leagues and team showdowns throughout the season, 1 year. And the top 4 players with the most points get an automatic Day 2 invite. The other 4 players in the Day 2 participated in the Day 1 event, which actually spanned a few weeks, where they played the Candy Shop Cube. So we've got Slight coming in at #1 seed. We've got Fruits coming in at #2 with that Day 2 invite. Mysterious Player and Lider, they secured their places by getting top 4. And then we've got Jules, who was able to 3-0 the Candy Shop Day 1 event. Kaleido Phoenix, Exalt, and someone else. Zach Crackler, who I'm sure many of you know. So, just waiting for everyone to hop into the drafter, and we will get this draft underway. It's a very interesting Cube of Ultimateness. I kind of view it as almost a follow-on to Slight's Archetype Cube, which has been very popular in the Cube Discord. This one I think is slightly lower power level, that's how I'd say it. But there's still some insane things you can do. It's one of those cubes where it feels like there's a lot of broken stuff, but there's not. It's just everything's got the tools it needs to win. A very well balanced cube. And we did run this cube for one of the cube leagues this season, and I believe Slight won that. He won his own cube in the cube league, so it'll be interesting to see if he can win again. So I'm just gonna take a break while everyone gets in, and we'll be back very shortly. All right, quick break. Looks like we are starting things off with the first pack. So I'll be following Slight's perspective. The #1 seed, we may, between packs, have a look how everyone else is doing. Let me just fix this real quick. Here we go. All right. So, a very interesting first pack we've got here. The Expert Belt immediately stands out for me. Definitely one of the stronger cards at this power level, increasing both the health and the damage your Pokemon does by 20. But of course, you are giving an additional prize card when that Pokemon is knocked out. Not sure why this is. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what cards Slight's drafting in the drafted card section, because I think there might be a visual error here, unfortunately. Yes. Other powerful cards in here include the Evo Soda. It's always great to have consistency in your draft. Most decks in this cube will be using evolution Pokemon. There's a number of evolution Pokemon in the cube. I really like the Delcatty with power circulation here, just being able to put energy on top of your deck. And it's also a really efficient attacker, doing 10 plus 10 for each damage counter on it. And of course, it damages itself when it puts the energy back on top of the deck. Power Hand Extension, always great to have Gust Of course, this only works when you're behind in prize cards, but this is effectively a stronger version of Counter Catcher that we have in Standard right now, because it can also move energy from their active Pokemon to one of their bench Pokemon. And also, this Haunter is surprisingly a very good stage 1. Let me see if I can find the right Haunter. It's this one. 2 damage on each of your opponent's Pokemon that have any damage counters on it. So if you're playing a spread, you could even try and fit this 1/1 Haunter into your deck just for the Pain Amplifier attack, which is pretty crazy. Alright, so in just a second we should see what Slice picked. Alright, for some reason I can't see what Slice has picked, so we're going to do this. How are we going to do this? Apologies, just having some technical difficulties here. Let's try this tab. And then let's go to... 1 second. All right, we're back. Slightly scuffed, I apologize, but we are back. So he did take the expert belt. We can see that. Also picking up the Kukui. This is a very strong pick in this power level, adding 20 damage. Damage mods in general are very powerful in Cube. If you're just 10, 20 damage short of a knockout, in some cases you're losing as much as a whole turn. So, we can see Slights uncheck the Kukui's, rechecked it again. Not surprised to see him going for that. There's sort of a weird damage mods deck that can happen in Cube sometimes. The more damage mods you have, in a way, the better they get. Because your reach just extends and extends and extends. And all of a sudden you're taking knockouts with some random basic Pokemon that does tackle for 20 or something. With Kukui and an expert belt, and it's like maybe hitting for weakness, and you're just taking knockouts out of nowhere. Other strong picks in this cube are the Blacksmith. If you're in fire, you definitely want to pick that up. Jirachi EX as well, a great way for getting supporters from your deck. We'll have to see. There's no chance that wins, but of course giving up 2 prize cards because it is an EX Pokemon. So I believe everyone's made their picks, so we should be passing the packs very shortly. TM Devolution, another great card in this pack. It's effectively, I was going to say it's the successor to ATM Rock that we had back in the day. Of course, I think TM Devolution is in Standard right now. Alright, so we're on pack 1, pick 3. Let's see if I can bring these down. Just so we know where we're at. There we go. Perfect. So this pack, a bit underwhelming. We've got 2 very good picks with the Kukui and the Expert Belt. Of course, the Honchkrow level X is a very powerful topper for the Honchkrow line here. Darkness Wing, when you take knockouts, able to recover any card from your discard pile back to your hand. It's very strong, especially if you can pick up some power cards like the Kukui, like the Expert Belt. But looks like Slight's opting for early consistency here, and this will make his draft easier further down the line, as he won't need to pick up consistency when in a tight spot with another good card. I don't think Zinnias is necessarily the best supporter. Having to discard 2 to draw for each of your opponent's Pokemon isn't bad. It's one of those supporters where if you have it in your opening hand, your opponent's not got many Pokemon in play at that point, so it's not that great. But it can certainly be very strong in a deck that wants to build its hand, and certainly later in the game. Just having a look at other picks, I don't think anything good's going to come wheeling in this pack. So when I say wheeling, I mean getting a card back that you originally passed on in the pack, and then picking it up the next time it comes around to you. That's called a wheel. So likely just going to get some evolving basic like the Hippopotas, the Pidgey, or the Mareep on the wheel. Or even the Sneasel. Yeah, I don't think there's much else to talk about in this pack. The Leafeon's really good, only because it's called Leafeon. So if we look at Leafeon level X here, one of the best toppers in the cube, in my opinion, being able to attach an additional energy card from your hand to one of your Pokemon each turn. Energy acceleration is paramount in Pokemon. Almost all standard decks you'll see revolve around, can you get the energy in play to power up your attackers? Leafeon level X really helps with that. Of course, you can only level up in the active position. One of the rules from the Diamond and Pearl era with these level X Pokemon. But yeah, so if the Leafeon goes, I'd imagine it's a speculative pick for the level X that I'm sure we'll see later in the draft. Right, looks like everyone's made their picks, so we'll be seeing what comes next very soon. All right, on to pick 4. So we've got the Victini EX here, very strong card. Of course, giving up 2 prize cards, but being able to search your deck for 2 basic energies and attach them to your Pokemon is a very strong starter Pokemon. Of course, with that retreat cost of 1, maybe you spend a couple of turns getting energy into play, and then you can just retreat without needing to commit any more energy to the Victini itself. The Salamence is also very strong here with the top accelerator ability, being able to discard the top card of, reveal the top card of your deck and attach it to one of your Pokemon if it's a basic energy. Oh, and then it is discarded if it's not a basic energy, so unreliable energy acceleration. Perhaps if that Delcatty was picked up in an earlier pick, we would see slight going for this. Salamence, because there's great synergy there. But of course, taking the Expert Belt, which I believe is the more open play. Looks like Slight is very high on this Salamence anyway. It's got a lot of health. It's got a good weakness, being weak to colorless in this cube. Most of the attacking lines are not colorless. It's mostly just Salamence himself. We do see the Dusk Gull with the Spiritborn evolution there. It's another very interesting pick. Discarding 3 cards from your hand to evolve, though, is quite costly in cube. Is there anything else notable in this pack? Honchkrow for the SP strategy. I doubt that will come back around. And the Pokemon Breeder as well. Effectively the predecessor to Rare Candy, allowing you to cheat evolution, go straight from basic to stage 2s. Yeah, not much to say about this pack. I guess one thing we can talk about is what Slight played for his Cube League winning deck. And I believe it was a Yanmega Lantern deck, I want to say, using the Yanmega that accelerates energy when it's in the active. Let me find it. It's not this one. Not this one. Sorry, a bit scuffed here. Here we go, Speed Boost. So it's, well, I think it was with Electivire level X. We'll have to have a look at that afterwards. Yeah, I believe it was Yanmega Lantern she won the league with. So, everyone's made their pick for this pack. Slight locked in on the Salamence. A great line topper. Not surprised to see him going for that. And we're on to pick 5 of pack 1. So there are 76 cards each in this draft. We're doing 1 pack of 16 and 4 packs of 15 to reach that number. We do see the second Honchkrow level X here, so we've already seen the first one go, so unlikely Slight will pick that, That said, the rest of the pack is a bit underwhelming. The item lock Vileplume is very strong. But of course, you are item locking yourself as well. Let me just bring that up here. Each player can't play any item cards from their hand. I really don't know what I would take here. Crash Awake is very narrow. You need to be on a water deck, lots of water energy to get value there. We do see Slight pick up the 100 Crow level X. The first one's already gone, but you don't need both. It's a very strong topper. Having the free retreat, being able to recur resources is very strong, and Feint Attack as well. Snipe 40 for 2 colorless energy is very powerful, especially in the later stages of a game where you just need one prize cut to win, and you know, it's pseudo Gust in a way. If your opponent's promoted a big 140 HP stage 2 and they've got a basic, or they've retreated a damaged Pokemon to their bench, just being able to snipe that off and end the game can be very strong. Other notable picks in this pack. There's the Lost World Stadium, which is interesting if you're on the Mew Prime strategy. So Mew Prime, let me find Mew Prime. Mew Prime lets you use any attack from all the Pokemon in the Lost Zone. And of course, Lost Zone... What does Lost World do? Let's check what Lost World does before I start talking about this. Lost World. You'll have to forgive me, I've not played Pokemon in a while. Once during each player's turn, if that player's opponent has 6 or more Pokemon in the Lost Zone. Okay, so this probably isn't with Mew Prime, sorry. This is with Gengar Prime, I want to say. Because I believe Gengar Prime... Here we go. Hurl into Darkness. You can put Pokemon into the Lost Zone by discarding Psychic Energy on Gengar. So, yeah, Lost World's definitely a Gengar piece and a win condition in its own right in this cube. It's always interesting seeing Lost Zone synergies in cube. Things like Mirage Gate with Colress and Comfy, generally reserved for the higher power levels. It's just an insane amount of energy acceleration. Of course, you can reduce that by putting less of them in the cube, but then it becomes a bit inconsistent. So it's kind of like an all or nothing strategy going that route. I like what Slight's done with the design of this cube. It's not just about putting as much stuff in the Lost Zone as possible. You're actually sort of thinking about it. The Gengar playing with the Lost World. Even this Relicanth, I believe, puts cards into the Lost Zone and draws cards. And then also Mew Prime being able to copy attacks in the Lost Zone. Of course, there was a Rhyperior level X in the cube previously, which discarded the top 5 cards of your deck for no energy. And I think it was 60 damage for each energy you discarded this way. And I believe someone for League just played Mew Prime Rhyperior level X and just started doing like 200 plus damage turn 2, which was crazy to see. But that's gone now. So it's like picking up the Hunchcrow. This pack's a bit more interesting. So we do see the Mantine. I'd be surprised if Slight doesn't go for the Mantine if he's high on the Salamence. So we see check the Darkness energy because it's really good with the Hunchcrow. Of course, Mantine Delta allowing you to stack basic energy from your discard pile on top of your deck. It's a bit like the Delcatty in basic form. So this is guaranteed energy acceleration if he can get the Salamence and the Mantine Delta in play. But looks like Slight still preferring the Darkness energy. Maybe not sold on this Salamence topper yet. Preferring the Hunchcrow route, which is fine. Obviously, he's got the Expert Belt, the Kukui. They're both incredibly strong targets to get back with the Hunchcrow. We do see the first of the AMU pieces here. We've got the Azelf level X. Of course, the Mesprit level X. If you have Azelf, Uxie, and Mesprit level X in play, does 2 energy for 200 damage, which is crazy. And I believe I'm using a 30-minute delay here, so I'm just going to tell everyone that I am streaming, because I believe we're now live. Let me just check my Twitch. Yes, we are. Cool. So just give me 1 second while I put an announcement out that we are actually live. Brilliant. All right. Right, back to the show. What's going on? So, I'm still on that Darkness Energy. Electrify FB, another great pick in this pack, mostly because it levels up into the Electrify level X, which is, in my opinion, insane. Being able to attach 3 energy cards from your discard pile to your Pokemon anyway. Of course, it does end your turn, but then again, the powerful Spark Attack, great synergy with its own Pokepower, doing 30 plus 10 for each energy attached to all your Pokemon. I believe this card is just so good. But I guess taking the basic when you don't have the level X is probably not the right way around to do it. It would be a speculative pick. Oh, we do see slight last minute switching to that Mantine. Yeah, definitely umming and ahhing between those two picks. So I believe we're going to move on to the next pack here. Another notable pick just before this pack passes is the Armor Star with that Fossil Bind ability. This is one-sided item lock, but only if you have less benched Pokemon than your opponent. So a bit like the Houndoom from the Ruby Sapphire era, I believe. This card saw some play in Standard, I believe, with the Gengar Mimikyu tag team. So it's an interesting card in Cube because it only does 2 for 60. So it actually works at this sort of mid to high power level, leaning on mid power level this Cube is. Right, we do see the second Leafeon being shown in this pack, sorry. And this is pick 7, so this pack's already been seen by 6 people, and 6 people have passed this Leafeon. So that's a sign potentially that other people are not so high on Leafeon. Of course, we did see the other Leafeon go past, but I much prefer this one myself. I would play this even just as a 1/1 line without the Leafeon level X in a number of decks. The bind down attack for a single grass energy does 30 damage and prevents the opponent's Pokemon from retreating, which is really good for securing knockouts. I think we've seen things like Pidgeot EX, both the Ruby Sapphire and in the Modern Era. I don't know if the Modern Era has Clutch, but just random attacks that stop your opponent from retreating just to secure knockouts is so strong, especially in Cube where switch effects are not as common. The only way to get out of an effect like that is with a switch effect or by evolving and leveling up your Pokemon. It's just a great way for closing out games. Of course, also has the added benefit of leveling up to the Leafeon level X, so if Slight gets his hands on that, we've got the makings of a very interesting deck. We've got the Salamence Energy Acceleration, potentially the Leafeon Energy Acceleration coming in. Of course, Salamence using water and fire energy. It's going to be interesting how this all pieces together. Other interesting picks are the Roserade, again with the Poison Bind, preventing them from retreating and poisoning them. It's very strong early Pokemon to start your game with. Sophocles, sort of a mid-tier consistency supporter. Discard 2 cards, draw 4 cards. Not that exciting. I think the Zinnia's Resolve Slight's got, on average, is probably better. Just being able to draw 5 or 6, potentially, when the opponent's got more Pokemon in play. Everything else in this pack's pretty mediocre. There's the Field Blower, which is a nice to have tool, and Stadium Removal is always nice to have, but I do think the Leafeon makes a lot of sense here. Right, pick 8. So this is the last pick we will see before we see what wheeled from the first pick. That's all I have to say. There's not much here. There's the Smuggle, which can really help out with sorting out your energy. Its second coat ability lets you swap a basic energy from one of your active Pokemon with one of your basic energy in your discard pile. So if you're running a multi-type deck, Smurgle can really help fix that. Of course, you still need to get it in play. It's using one of your bench slots. What else is going on in this pack? I really don't like that Ninetales. It does do 2 for 60, which isn't bad, but having to discard the fire energy is not great. Of course, that color shift ability, allowing it to change types, isn't bad. We do see Slight heading straight for that Smurgle, though. Not surprised to see that. It can fit into a number of decks and can really help smoothen out your energy line. One cool thing about this cube is all the fossil Pokemon, though. So we've got the Dome, the Old Amber, and the Helix fossil all in the same pack. So there's definitely a fossil archetype going on here. The Kabutop's one of the strongest stage 2 lines in the cube, with the Primal Scythe. For 1 energy, if you discard a fossil, it's doing 70 damage, which at this power level is insanely efficient. That's 2-shotting almost all stage 2s in the cube, most sitting at that 120, 130 HP mark. And then Rock Slide's just okay, but I think it's really for Primal Scythe, Fossil Tribal, which is a cool archetype to see. Yeah, nothing else exciting in this pack though. There's the Mesprit. You're just saying it, using it because it has Mesprit in play. I think if you've got Uxie and Azelf in play, it turns off the weakness for all your Pokemon. But I don't see anyone ever slotting in Azelf, Uxie, and Mesprit just for that ability. Like, you're playing it for the Mesprit level X, doing that 2 for 200 damage once you've got all the level X's in play. Right. It's like we're moving on to pick 9. So it's been a while since we saw that pick 1. Can't remember exactly what was in the pack, so might be a bit of a surprise. Maybe you remember what was in there. We'll have to see what comes back. Alright, so we do see some very powerful pieces coming back, actually. There's the Regirock, which is energy acceleration. Discard 2 cards from your hand to accelerate a fighting energy from your discard pile to the Regirock. There must have been some very good cards in this pack, because Regirock is a great enabler for energy acceleration, especially if you can find a way to move energy around. There's also the Floatstone, giving your Pokemon 0 retreat cost is incredibly powerful. Mobility is everything. I like to think of cards like Floatstone as pseudo energy acceleration. Chances are at some point in the game you're going to want to retreat, and if that's costing you 1 or 2 energy, you've lost those energy. Being able to do it without losing energy lets you keep attackers in play, keep them around powered up. It's very strong. It's also just great to have a pivot in Pokemon. So when we talk about pivots, as most people probably know, but when your Pokemon's knocked out, being able to put your Pokemon with free retreat in the active, play out your turn, and then retreat into your attacker is very strong, rather than immediately promoting a Pokemon that has a retreat cost. And then, of course, you're going to have to pay to retreat it if you then change your mind and you want to put something else in the active. And in fact, many decks will just play 0 retreat cost Pokemon, even just 1, just to have a pivot. Is that strong? There's also the Windstorm, which again is effectively Field Blower, discard tools and stadiums in play. Nice to have. And the Azelf, which I believe is one of the stronger pieces for the AMU archetype. If you've got all 3 in play, the attacks of your opponent's basic Pokemon cost a colorless more energy. So very powerful at shutting down these SP big basics decks that do exist in the cube. You know, things like that Electivire FB, things like Palkia G level X, for example. Taxing their energy cost on their attacks is very powerful. Now this is crazy. The Blacksmith has wheeled one of the most powerful cards in cube in general. I guess for this particular cube, it's not quite as surprising as the fire lines are quite thin. So I believe there's a Ninetales. What else is there? It's literally Ninetales and the Victinis. So maybe not so surprising to see the blacksmith wheel, but still a very strong cut. We do see Slight speculatively going for the Metagross, but immediately unchecks that. I'd have to imagine it's between the Unknown Q and the Metagross here. So the Unknown Q is a really cool Pokemon. Its quick Pokepower lets you attach it from the bench to one of your Pokemon as a tool card. And while it's attached, that Pokemon's retreat cost is reduced by 1. So again, more mobility. Not as good as a Float Stone in terms of it's only reducing it by 1. But the key part here is it's a Pokemon, so it's searchable. So if you've got a Collector, an Ultra Ball, I'm not sure you would Ultra Ball for an Unknown, but anything that searches Pokemon, being able to search for something that reduces retreat cost is very powerful. I'm not sure what Slight might be thinking about, because he's checked the Metagross twice and unchecked it. What does this Metagross do? It's 3 for 70, 130 HP. He's just a big guy. He's weak to fire, and as we've said before, there's not that much fire in this cube. There's Ninetales, the blacksmith is wheeled, so perhaps metal's a good thing to get in on. That being said, Slight's already got some very strong toppers. Not committed to any of them yet, though. We are certainly drafting the hard way. Might be speculatively thinking about picking up this Porygon 2, of course, evolving into the backup Porygon. Sorry, the Porygon in this pack evolves into the backup Porygon 2, which is one of the best consistency stage 1s in the cube with the backup ability. I think there's only 4. There's 4 Porygon in the cube, so picking one of those off is never bad in case you get your hands on the backup P2. But looks like Slight's still on that Metagross, so that's fine. I've never played this Metagross in any cube, but it's quite easy to digest it. It just does damage. It's big. Its weakness is quite good in this cube, like I said, so yeah, we'll have to see what wheels from the other earlier packs. So we'll be moving on to pick 11 here shortly. And between packs, I will have a skim through the other players' tabs, and we will see what they've picked up, see what directions other people are going. We will then have more knowledge than Slight, so it'll be interesting. Right. Yeah, as we get into the later stages of these packs, they're not that exciting. So I can see Slight's actually unchecked the Honchkrow level X, so currently not on that game plan. But there is the Piers there that lets you search your deck for a dark Pokemon and any energy. But actually going for the metal energy, when attached to a metal Pokemon, reduces the damage they take by 10. Of course, very strong with that Metagross that Slight just picked up. I'm not sure how many metal energy are in the cube. I'm just going to check. There are 2. So there's 2 metal energy in the cube. If you manage to get them both and attach them to a big Metagross, that Metagross is going to live for a while, considering many attacks in this cube, cap out at about 70, 80 damage. Nothing too exciting here, though. There's the Pidgey evolving into Airmail. Could be a good speculative pick if we want to get into a support line, but I think Slight rather takes the support topper first before picking up the basics, which is fine. There's also the Mareep here with the static electricity attack, which can be very strong. For 1 lightning energy, you can search your deck for a lightning energy for each Mareep you have in play and attach it to Mareep. So that can be very powerful, just to flood a ton of energy into play early. And then if you've got the rare candy Ampharos, you can run away with games. Of course, the downside being Mareep's only got 40 HP, so if they manage to knock you out, you have sort of wasted your turn a bit there. So there is a Bagon, I'm not sure how you say it, that has wheeled. Slightly immediately going for that. Still on this Salamence plan. I've seen Slight jam 3-4 stage 2 lines into a deck before. So, you know, perhaps we're going Salamence, Metagross, any other stage 2. He loves those stage 2s, they're very strong. If your deck can support it. Of course, yeah, the Bagon evolving eventually into Salamence is a great pickup here. And a great sign that no one else is potentially on Salamence just yet. Although there is the fastball, which is an okay consistency piece, probably a bit underrated, revealing cards from your deck until you reveal a Pokemon. It's a bit random what you get, is the problem with fastball. All right. This is not a very interesting pack. Going straight for the Hippopotas though. 11th hour tackle is actually a very interesting attack. I'm not sure I can find the right one to bring up here, but I believe which one is it? Here we go. If you've got 3 or fewer cards in your deck, it does 130 more damage, so potentially 3 for 180. Which is enough to one-shot anything in the cube. Of course, getting to 3 or fewer cards in your deck is incredibly difficult. More likely just picking this up because it does evolve into Hippowdon. Hippowdon level X being one of the coolest cards, I believe, Pokemon's ever printed, with the Sand Reset ability, being able to shuffle into each player's deck all the energy and cards in play. Stadiums, tools, energy. Pairs very well with efficient attackers that have got good, 1 for 70 attacks, for example, potentially the Kabutops. Or if you've got your hands on energy acceleration, being able to reset that game state and then accelerate energy into play can be incredibly strong. But most likely picking up the Hippopotas, just because the rest of the cards in the pack are not that great. So I think as we reach the later stages of this pack, I'm going to start going through other people's tabs, and we'll see what they've got. So Slight's passing to Mysterious Player. They're passing to the right in this case. So let's have a look at what Mysterious Player's up to. So we do see Mysterious Players picked up a couple of Mareep, Vileplume. I believe this is the item lock Vileplume. Picked up that Duskull that can evolve. Picked up that Leafeon that so it looks like Mysterious Player got all the Evo Soda that we talked about, the Jirachi EX and the Leafeon. Of course, Slight passing those for, what was it, Kukui and some other things. Let's have a look at Kaleido Phoenix's draft, which is what Mysterious Player is drafting to, sorry. So we do see another Vileplume is being taken actually, so the Vileplume line is split. There's a Rocket Admin as the pack one pick one, very strong. Potentially getting into some Azelf Uxie Mesprit stuff here, with the Uxie and the Azelf level X already. Nothing too important to talk about here though. Kaleido is passing to Fruits, so let's have a look at Fruits. What's going on here? We've got the Delcatty from Platinum, very strong, talked about that. The Roserade, nothing crazy here though, just some consistency pieces. The Oak's New Theory is very strong. Twin Energies, great energy acceleration. But nothing that's like screams that Fruits is on an archetype yet. They're just taking very open cards. We will have a look at Jules's draft. So we do finally see that Blacksmith being picked up. What is this pick? 14 or something? Actually able to get their hands on a Delcatty from Power Keepers, I believe, with the energy draw ability. Discard an energy to draw 3 cards. very strong. The Lapras as well from Legend Maker. It's basically a single price version of the Jirachi EX, letting you search your deck for a supporter, very strong. And the Electivire FB level X. One of the, very strong first three picks, and that Delcatty and the Electivire FB have got great synergy. The Delcatty getting energy into the discard pile, the Electivire accelerating them. Yeah, and even picked up the Electivire FB, so Jules is all set to have a... Oh, is that Lantern as well? Which Lantern is this? The Energy Grounding Lantern. Also very strong with Electivire FB, just for keeping energy in play. It's the powerful spark. Let's just have a quick look at Lida. Pack one, pick one, Cessation Crystal, cool. This turns off abilities, Pokepowers and Pokebodies. Very strong, but only while it's on your active Pokemon. Looks like they're leaning towards an SP draft. Maybe not. They've got the Team Galactic's invention. Which one is this? This is the Poketurn, a very strong card in the SP archetype. They've got the Weavalchi, the Honchkrow SP as well. Oh no, this is the stage 1 Honchkrow. So, good start to an SP deck there, potentially. Lida's passing to Zach. Let's have a look at Zach. Air Balloon, Ordinary Rod, just great. Retreat tool, great recovery. Looks like Zach is also fairly open, just taking consistency more than anything else. Zach is passing to Exalt. With the pack one, pick one, Infernate, Countercatcher. Alright, looks like we're on to pack 2, so they're actually going to be passing the other way. I'm going to head back to Slights tab. What was he able to pick up? So he picked up a Skitty, a Battle Compressor, and a Helix Fossil. So he didn't miss out on too much. Now, what is going on in this pack? There's nothing that's like amazing, but there are certainly good cards. Surprise Time Machine, one of the coolest cards Pokemon's ever printed again. Being able to take one of your evolved Pokemon, shuffle it into your deck, and take potentially the same evolved Pokemon, but it can be a different line topper of the same line and replace it. So say I've got a Salamence in play, Slight could use the top accelerator ability, and then Surprise Time Machine, go and get a different Salamence, or even the same Salamence, and because it would be considered a different Salamence at that point, could reuse that top acceleration ability. Slight opting for the Dusknoir though, one of the coolest lines ever printed, in my opinion. There's actually 2 stage 2 psychic lines in this cube, which is really cool. But here we go, Shadow Command Dusknoir. You can draw 2 cards, and then if you have 7 or more cards in your hand, you discard cards until you have 6 cards in your hand, and then you put 2 damage counters on Dusknoir. Which has got great synergy with its damage even attack, letting you place damage counters equal to the damage counters on Dusknoir to any one of your opponent's Pokemon. Slight's actually unchecked that though, so we'll have to see where he goes. Potentially Quick Ball. Consistency for basic Pokemon, not bad. Carmine's an okay consistency supporter. Discard your hand and draw 5. And of course you can use it on the first turn of the game, even if you're going first, as per Carmine's rules. There's also the Conductivity Ampharos, which makes your opponent take damage every time they attach energy from their hand. But Slight actually opting for the Double Rainbow Energy, so really cool energy from the Ruby and Sapphire era. It counts as 2 Rainbow Energy, but it can only be attached to evolved non-EX Pokemon. And it also makes the Pokemon it's attached to do 10 less damage with their attacks. Very strong in a multi-type deck. Very strong just because it's energy acceleration in general, which we know is very strong. So not surprised to see Slight picking that up here. Perhaps realizing he's got enough attackers. Probably doesn't have enough attackers. It's more just the Dusknoir doesn't really fit with what's going on at the moment, whereas the Double Rainbow Energy fits with everything that's going on at the moment, even if Slight's not decided which way the decks going. Moving on to pick 2. We do see the Crobat with the Toxic Fang. This is a very strong Pokemon in Cube. When you bench it, you can put a damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Very strong. It's also got free retreat. Always great to have a pivot. And also with cards like Poketurn, you can actually play it more than once in a turn. So it's another damage mod. It's already got 2 damage mods, but I did say before, the more damage mods you've got, the more reach you have. They have weird synergy with themselves. Slight opting for the Karina though, so set your deck for a fighting Pokemon and an item card. I think the only fighting Pokemon so far is Hippopotas, but just searching for an item card, we have seen people play Karina without fighting Pokemon in their deck, because being able to pick and choose when to get items, which items and when, is very powerful. Now, I'm not sure on the rules of this cube, I've had to check, but in this era, tool cards were considered items. So I'd have to imagine this could potentially search Expert Belt and Floatstone, which is very strong to have access to on demand. Other notable picks, this Duskull can evolve on the first turn, which is cool. But again, just an evolving basic. Curse Stone, very good for spread strategies that aren't power reliant. It does 1 damage to each Pokemon with a Poke Power between turns, which is very strong. Mallow, allowing you to set your deck for any 2 cards and put them on top of your deck. Could potentially be really good with the top accelerator Salamence that Slight's got. But of course, already having that Mantine for the consistent stacking of the energy. Nothing else too important to talk about here. There's the Holon's Voltorb, which is a really cool mechanic we used to have, Holon Pokemon, that can actually be attached as energy. So that Voltorb could be attached as a colorless energy, which was really cool. We do see the Giovanni Scheme, which is another damage mod. It's either your Pokemon attacks do 20 more damage this turn, or draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. I really like this supporter. It's got great versatility, both as a consistency piece and as a damage mod. That would probably be my pick here. There are 2 Bagon in the pack though, if Slight is still looking for the Salamence. So one of them is likely to wheel, I would say. It's very unlikely 2 people take the Bagon. But you are giving a sign that people potentially are not on Salamence, even though Slight sort of is. Not really, because he's only got 1 Salamence, but actually opting for the Roast Reveal Ninetales, which also makes a lot of sense. Discard a fire energy from your hand to draw 3 cards once per turn. Very strong. Salamence does use fire energy, so potentially leaning more into the fire basic energy, just to have that consistency. This is sort of energy draw Delcatty at home. Of course, it does do 3 for 60, which isn't bad, especially if you want to hit for weakness. Having a range of types in your deck can be very strong and is a very good strategy in Cube. Other notable picks are the Mewtwo with the Delta Switch ability. It allows you to rearrange all the basic energy attached to all your Pokemon when you play it. Really, really cool card. And Crispin. Not sure what Crispin does. I've not played Standard in a hot minute, so I'm just going to bring up Crispin now and take a look. Set your deck for 2 basic energy of different types. Put 1 into your hand and attach 1. That is interesting, actually, especially as Slight's most likely on a multi-type deck. Looks like Slight's opting for the consistency, though, rather than having more energy acceleration. Which makes sense. It makes sense. So just moving on to pick 4 of pack 2. 58 picks left to go. So we're about quarter done now, I want to say. Let's see what we have in store. All right, some very interesting picks in this pack. So we see another Metagross. Now this Metagross, I believe, is actually quite divisive in the Cube community on whether it should even go into Cube, with its magnetic reversal, flip a coin of heads, switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with one of the defending Pokemon. So flip a coin, boss's orders. Very strong ability on a stage 2. Now, its attack's not that great. 3 for 50, but if you used extra Comet Punch last turn, it actually does 3 for 100. So you can keep it in the active, it's very strong, but it's a very good Pokemon just to have on your bench, throwing out those magnetic reversals turn after turn. But Slight actually opting for the Hippowdon. Already got a Hippopotas, so this is okay. This is fine. Got the Karina as well. I do think this Hippowdon is a very good stage 1. Save Sand is a very efficient attack, doing 20 plus 10 for each energy attached to Hippowdon, and before doing damage you can accelerate a fighting from your discard pile. So imagine you've already got a fighting attached. If you're picking up another one, it's basically 1 for 40 with 110 HP that damages level X Pokemon between turns. It's very strong. And of course it does level up into the Hippowdon level X if Slight is able to get his hands on one of those, of which there are 2 in the cube. We do see another Holon Pokemon, so the Electrode, much stronger than the Holon Voltorb. While it's attached, it counts as 2 energy of any type, but to attach it, you do have to return an energy attached to the Pokemon you're attaching it to. But it's still very good, especially in multi-type decks, being able to satisfy 2 different energy costs, and also just being 2 energy in one card. You are returning an energy back, but then you've got your energy attachment for next turn as well, which is really strong. A couple of Shelgon in this pack, so hopefully one of those wheels, otherwise it's a bad sign for the Salamence angle. But yes, we've got some good diversification here, both with the Hippowdon, the Salamence, and the Metagross. This draft can go in a number of ways. Moving on to pick 5. The Honchkrow immediately stands out. Of course, Slight has unchecked that Honchkrow level X, but this specific Honchkrow is very strong. While in the active, you can put basic Pokemon from your opponent's discard pile back onto their bench. So potentially low health Pokemon that are free knockouts or just clogging their bench. And also Riot does 30 damage plus 10 for each Pokemon that isn't evolved in play. Very punishing, especially for SP decks. Slight seems to be going down a more stage 1, stage 2 line though, so perhaps it's not the right pick here. Actually opting for the BB search. This is basically put a card from your hand on top of your deck and then set your deck for any Pokemon. Shuffle your deck. It's okay. It's not bad. You do need Pokemon search. We can actually see on the right here that's going to be Slight's 4th supporter. He's only got 3 so far. So don't blame him picking that up as well. We do see the Power Spray coming around as well. One of the key cards in the SP archetype that as long as you've got 3 or more SP Pokemon in play, you can play it. And when your opponent uses a Pokemon power on their turn, you can use the Power Spray to prevent that power from happening. So I think it might be the only card Pokemon's ever printed that you play on your opponent's turn. So really interesting design space there. And yeah, certainly key for the SP archetype. What else is going on in this pack? Is what's going to wheel? Like, nothing. Nothing interesting is going to wheel for Slight. There's the Ambipom G, which is not a good card in my opinion, but one of my favorites in a weird way. Tailcode lets you move an energy from the defending Pokemon to any other of your opponent's Pokemon, which can just be really annoying, especially if you combine it with other energy disruption, such as Team Flagrant or Plumeria. It can buy you a lot of time. Also, if your opponent's got things like Double Rainbow Energy or even the Holon's Electrode that we talked about, moving that onto like a supporting piece can be very strong. But looks like... Nope. Looks like we're going to get into the next pack very shortly. So there's that Gengar Prime I was talking about. I don't think the slight's going to pick that, but it's cool to see it pop up. A couple of key pieces for the SP strategy. I can't remember who it was who was starting to assemble SP. So potentially they're not. Potentially this pack's not reached them yet. We'll have to see. Both the Energy Gain and the Bronze are very strong for SP. There's the Shaman with the Celebration Wind here. When you bench it, you can move all your energy in play to any Pokemon you like. Basically a stronger version of the Mewtwo Delta, because this one can also move special energy. Very strong effect when you bench it. And we do see Slight immediately going for that. Honestly, energy moving effects are one of the coolest things in Pokemon. Just being able to take a heavily damaged attacker, for example, with 4 energy, potentially, and immediately move those 4 energy onto your next attacker is a very swingy, very powerful play. Of course, the downside being it's using one of your bench slots, you've still got to find the Shaman, but having it really raises the ceiling of what your deck can do, especially if you combine it with cards like AZ, which I know Fruits had already picked up, which returns your Pokemon back to your hand, but discards all the cards attached. So you could Shaman, for example, move all the energy off, and then AZ to return that Pokemon to your hand, effectively fully healing it. Of course, you'd still have to bench it and evolve back up, but very strong. We do see the Cresselia in this pack. While this card itself isn't very notable, the Cresselia level X is. There's only one Cresselia level X in the cube, but the Moonskip is a very dangerous attack, only doing 40 damage, but if it takes a knockout, you take an additional prize card, so this pairs very well with spread strategies. It has a number of partners it can go with. Very strong card, Cresselia level X, and certainly a build around, especially if you can get your hands on it early. So yeah, it doesn't make sense for Slight to pick it. I think the Shaman is the more open card. The only other card you potentially consider is the Castaway, being able to search your deck for a supporter, a tool card, and a basic energy. Slight's got some very good tools in the Expert Belt and the Floatstone, and of course, being able to get basic energy on demand. It's also very strong, especially in multi-type decks. But looks like we're moving on to the next pack. Nothing too exciting. The Animega is surprisingly not bad. I believe it's 0 energy, 10 damage, and it does 10 damage to all of your opponent's benched Pokemon as well. The downside being your opponent then gets to switch their active with one of their bench. Still not bad though. I imagine Slight is either going to go for the Metang, if he's on the Metagross line, or the Shelgon. Didn't see the Shelgon there for the Salamence. Oh, of course, the Vulpix as well. Okay, so lots of evolving pieces that Slight wants here. The Vulpix, of course, for that. The Ninetales with the Roast Reveal. Shelgon for the Salamence. The Metang for the Metagross. Yeah, actually picking up the Vulpix. That makes a lot of sense. That Roast Reveal is almost certainly going in the deck at this point. We might see... I don't know how it's going to end up. We're probably too early in the draft to see what this deck's going to look like, but it's certainly going to be Ninetales with something. Right, just a couple more picks from players before this pack will be passed. This pack will wheel, Slight will see one more card from this pack. So I think he's hoping it's either the Shelgon or the Metang. I guess an Eevee or a Pidgey as well would also be okay. Of course, the Eevee for that Leafeon. Pidgey just evolves into Pidgeotto, which is a good support Pokemon. Potentially not needed though with the Roast Reveal Ninetales that Slight's already picked up. There's no way Milo wheels, even though it's not the best consistency supporter. Milo will be taken by someone. Right, everyone's made their pick, so should be passing very soon. Right, speaking of the ML Pidgeotto, here he is. ML, look at the top two cards, put one in your hand, one to the bottom. One of my favorite supporting pieces. Of course, not as good as backup Porygon 2 or Energy Draw Delcatty, but still very good. We do see Scorched Earth, which is potentially very interesting for Slight here. Discard a Fire or Fighting Energy on a Stadium to draw two cards. Given that Slight's got Hippowdon and Ninetales, that's in both of those types, so perfect synergy there. Now we do see the second Gengar Prime going around, so it looks like no one's building Gengar Prime today. The Glaceon level X actually is like switching to a very strong level X in this cube. Let me bring it up. While in the active, your opponent's Pokemon can't use Pokepowers, and potential to spread if you flip heads. So very strong at turning off your opponent's abilities. Potentially strong just to have in the active with a Floatstone if you want to take a turn off. Also, being that water type, Salamence being fire and water, potentially fits into the lineup. Really, you don't usually want to go above 3 types in Pokemon. You can have the odd deck that can support more. But especially when, for example, Avalanche has got 2 water in its attack cost. If you're split across too many types, it can be quite difficult to power up. Also, a very late Hulan Scientist coming around. A very good consistency supporter, especially with the Hulan Transceiver that lets you tutor Hulan supporters from your deck or your discard pile. So this pack must have been quite good, especially if the ML Pidgeotto is still here and the Scientist. Yes, I'd imagine some people will have taken very good cards from this pack. Alright, looks like we're passing. Alright, so what wheeled? Surprise Time Machine wheeled, Hippopotas wheeled. I'm not sure Slight particularly cares about anything else. The Mega's not bad. 3 for 70 with colorless energy costs and free retreat. It's not bad. 100 HP as well, which is pretty high for stage 1. But Slight opting for that Hippopotas. Definitely feels like the Hippowdon is going to make its way into the deck. I wonder if Slight's trying to get his hands on the level X, and if that will fit That'd be interesting to see. Mm. There's also the Carnivine in this pack I should talk about. Very good control piece. 1 grass energy, you can gust up one of your opponent's benched Pokemon and poison it, which can be very disruptive. It's cards like this that make it very important to have switching cards in your deck, float stones as well. You don't want your Pokemon to get stuck and give your opponent free prize cards. All right, pick 10. So the Crobat has wheeled. It's very interesting. I'm very high on that card myself, but you know, these guys know better than me. They're the ones in day 2 of champs, so yeah, not surprised to see Slight pick that up. I'd imagine he's very happy with that pick. Having ways to put more damage on the board, having that pivot option, Crobat G honestly fits into any deck. We've seen Galarian Zigzagoon, I believe it was, in standard format for a long time. Of course, not in standard now, but just sometimes 10 damage is all you need. And that's much more powerful at this power level, where Pokemon have, 130 HP instead of the 300 HP VMAXs we had alongside the Zigzagoon. So, very, very good pickup here. Right, in a couple of picks, I will start going around the table again, and we'll see what everyone else has picked up. So, wheeling to Bagon, Beldum, and Metang. Imagine Slight's going for one of those 4. Definitely not the Oddish. I guess this is the point. You decide, do you want the Salamence line? Do you want the Metagross line? Definitely opting for the Salamence line here. The energy acceleration is very strong. And we actually see Slight immediately unchecking the Metagross and the Metal Energy from his draft pool. So that's quite fun to see. But certainly a great sign that the Bagons are wheeling. I'd imagine we'll get a Shelgon wheel as well later in a couple of picks' time, because I believe there was a pack with 2 Shelgons. So that line's coming together nicely, and it's a good sign that no one else is on Salamence. So if any more Salamences come through, Slight should be able to get his hands on them. So I'm just going to have a quick look at the other tabs. I'm going to go the other way this time. So Slight was passing to Exalt this time. Let's have a look at Exalt and what they were able to pick up. So where are we up to? Oh, they've sorted their pool a bit, so it's hard to see. Just lots of consistency from the looks of it for Exalt. Let's see what Zach is building. We've got a Juniper pick, Cessation Crystal, Giovanni Scheme, very strong. There's the Metagross picked up. So potentially Zach getting in on the Metagross action. I can see he's got 2 Metagross now and a Metang, 2 Metang. So it looks like the Metagross line's definitely going that way, especially with Slight passing that Metang and Beldum. You'd imagine in a second he's going to pick up one of those as well. Zach's passing to Lido, so let's have a look at Lido. Oh, wow, this Pidgeotto is still going around. Lido picking up the Scorched Earth, so what's he on? Nothing too notable in the Pokemon department. There's Tyranitar, again, Honchkrow level X, very strong. Nothing too crazy in the Pokemon line though, just some consistency. Lido passing to Jules. Wow, this airmail Pidgeotto is still going around. Yes, the Electrify FB deck. I like this one. Sycamore, Timeable, Lickers. Not sure about the Lost World pick, but I'm guessing there was nothing else in the pack. Olympia, Mallow, Duskull. Very strong picks from Jules here, potentially getting in with some Gengar action. Could be an interesting Gengar Prime deck actually here, picking up the second Gengar Prime, I believe. Yes, the second Gengar Prime. With Electabuzz FB, just to stack loads of Psychic Energy on this Gengar and hurl into darkness and potentially win through Lost World. That would be really cool to see. Jules passing to Fruits. What has Fruits done? Computer Search, of course. Dark Dragonite. Electrode, Night Maintenance. Yep. And Fruits passing to Kaleido Phoenix, who's got Azelf from Legends Awaken, very strong. Leafeon level X is gone. There's only one in the cube. So Kaleido having his hands on that is brilliant. And it's potentially still leaning towards that AMU strategy, potentially with a Leafeon level X to go with it. We do see him picking up like the Mesprit, the Azelf, the Uxie level X, so working in that direction. Kaleido passing to Mysterious Player. We've got N, Mysterious Player's favourite card, N, which is a bit like Iono we have in Standard now, but instead of putting the cards to the bottom, it shuffles them in. Steven's Advice, Bridget, Alolan Vulpix, just insane consistency from Mysterious Player. Then picking up an Ampharos, very welcomed with the Fluffy and Mareep he was able to pick up earlier. And finally, passing back to Slight, what Slight picked up, he did pick up the Shelgon Delta from that previous pack. That's Herbal Energy, this is Shelgon Delta. So we haven't missed too much. And we should soon be into pack number 3. All right, let's see what pack number 3 has in store. Let's think about what Slight wants to see. So he's only got 4 supporters. Definitely want some more of those. Hasn't got any stadiums yet. Not quite as pivotal, important, but you certainly want stadium bumps, especially when there's stadiums like Kirstone going around. Instantly picking the Item Finder, a very strong trainer card from the WotC era. Discard 2 cards from your hand, return any trainer card from your discard pile back to your hand. And I believe because of how the WotC era worked, it could get back any trainer cards. This can get back supporters, items, tools. A very versatile card. We also see the download Porygon 2 in this pack, which is a really cool supporting piece. being able to discard a supporter from your hand and use the effective Poke power to be that supporter. Effectively lets you play 2 supporters per turn, which is really, really strong. But of course, you need a lot of supporters in your deck to enable that. Misty's Wrath as well. Very, very strong card. Look at the top 7, keep 2 of them, discard the rest. Very aggressive card. Very strong if your deck wants cards in the discard pile, particularly energy. For example, Electivire FB, accelerating from discard pile. Cards like Misty's Wrath, very strong there. Rescue Stretcher, it's a shame we don't pick that up because I don't believe there's any recovery in this deck yet. Rescue Stretcher being a premium piece, either adding a Pokemon straight to hand or shuffling 3 into the deck, is very strong and also very versatile. Is anything going to wheel for Slight here? Probably the Bagon or the Shelgon, to be honest, which is okay. You know, at least it's useful. But it's not like a power piece. This Lantern, I believe, is very strong, just for its stats. 110 HP is a lot for stage 1. 2 energy for 50 is good damage output. Efficient, lots of health. I do like this Lantern. We do see the SP Radar as well in this pack. One of the better consistency pieces for SP strategies. So if that comes back round, it's a sure sign that no one's playing SP. That's almost certainly the card you'd take if you're playing SP. Provided Wrath and Stretcher are already gone, probably take Wrath and Stretcher over SP. I'd imagine the Uxie level X will make its way to the AMU player. Everything else is not that exciting. There's the Special Dark Energy. I believe there was someone else with the Honchkrow level X. They'll likely pick that up if they can. There's also the Tyranitar Delta with the Crush Draw ability, which is basically the same as the top accelerator Salamence. So another great acceleration piece here. Right. Now, this is an interesting pack for Slide because there's probably 3 standout cards. I'd say there's the Professor's Research, discard your hand, draw 7. Incredibly strong, one of the best supporters ever printed. Evo Incense for the Searching Evolution Pokemon, great consistency piece. And also Super Rod. If you're lacking Pokemon recovery, Super Rod will get that done for you, shuffling up to 3 Pokemon and energy cards or energy cards from your discard pile into your deck is very good. If I'm Slight, I'm picking one of those 3. Yeah, immediately going for that Professor's Research. Not surprised to see that at all. Can be a bit punishing if you're playing lots of stage 2s, but so far it looks like it's just the Salamence for Slight, so it should be quite easy to fit that in without discarding away all your stage 1 and evolving and your stage 2s. We do see the Azolf level X, so we'll see if that makes its way to the AMU player. I do worry about Slight's Pokemon recovery. We've seen quite a few pieces go now. The Stretcher, the Super Rod. It's very important that Slight picks up at least some by the time this draft's done, so we'll keep our eye out for that. But yeah, the supporters come at a really good time. Was that pick 3 of this pack? Much needed at this point, given Slight now only has 5 supporters. Right, there's the second Shadow Command Dusknoir. I think Slight didn't end up taking the first one. No, that's correct. So probably not leaning towards that. Premier Ball, great for searching level X Pokemon from your deck or your discard pile. Ditto is very versatile. If you're playing multiple stage 1 and stage 2 lines, just having a basic that can evolve into any stage 1 can be quite strong. Of course, the downside being it's not got much health. It's got no attacks. And also the Final Wish Jirachi. This is one of my favorite cards in Cube. When it's knocked out, you can set your deck for any card, and its detour attack. If you have a supporter in play, the effect of the attack copies the effect of the supporter. Very strong in control decks in particular, things like Team Flagrant, Cyrus's Initiative, for example. Being able to do that twice in one turn can be devastating. Just a very annoying Pokemon to have in the active, especially as it's got free retreat. But slight going for that Premiable. I believe we have the Glaceon level X, probably trying to get hands on the Hippowdon level X. There's also a Honchkrow level X, but it doesn't look like that will be making its way into the deck. But yeah, so great consistency piece, Premiable, especially if you have multiple level X targets. Don't think anything's going to wheel though. Like there's nothing here that will wheel. The only cards that Slight might consider are the Jirachi and the Ditto, I think, at this point. And they're not going to wheel. Just a couple more picks from other people before we pass this pack. We do see another Lantern in the pack, so I think the Lanterns are being seen quite early from Slight. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone else ends up with a strong Lantern deck. This one is, again, very efficient, 110 HP, 2 for 50, and Confusion is very, very good. So, yeah, big fan of Lantern in this cube. All right, let's see what's in the next. Okay, so some very powerful cards here. Double Gust is a very strong Gust card, especially if you've got Pokemon with free retreat or switches. Your opponent brings one of your bench Pokemon to the active, and then you bring one of their bench Pokemon to the active. But of course, if you've got switch or something, it's almost like boss's orders on an item if you can enable it. The other power card here is the Heat Factory Prism, mimicking that Roast Reveal Ninetales, just discarding a fire energy to draw 3 cards. Having both at the same time might be difficult to sustain. You'd need a lot of fire energy to do that. But just increasing your opportunity to be able to do that. Perhaps a Ninetales piece is prized. Perhaps you draw the Heat Factory early, for example. It's not redundant to have both. I could see Slight picking up the Heat Factory or the Double Gust. Other strong cards in this pack are Penny, returning one of your basic Pokemon, and all cards attached to it back to your hand. Very strong. It doesn't fit into this deck, as Slight isn't relying on basic Pokemon to do the attacking. And yes, of course, the Glaceon. How can I forget? Slight with that Glaceon level X. It needs a Glaceon to level up from. So no EVs picked up yet. It's a very interesting line in this cube, having just the Leafeon and the Glaceon. Let's see how many EVs there are. There are 6 EVs. I know we've seen a few of them go already, so I'd imagine Slight would be happy to pick up any EV at this point, even just playing it as a 1-1-1 line. That Glaceon level X. Wow, this round of packs have been insanely strong compared to the first packs we had. So immediately going for that Versus Seeker, returning any supporter card from your discard pile back to your hand, very strong. Especially with cards like Kukui, being able to recur the damage mod, plus 20 damage, is very strong. Also, I believe this event is open deck list, so people will be able to see the contents of each player's deck. If you see your opponent's got Versus Seeker and they've not played it yet, you now need to think about all the cards in their discard pile as well as all the cards in their deck. Just a very strong piece, and I don't think Pokemon will ever reprint this card, because I know it was a 4-of in almost all decks the whole time it was legal. Yeah, phenomenal card. Phenomenal. How do you say that word? I'm not sure. Phenomenal card. There we go. Timer Ball, great pick. Trevor, another great pick. There's the Burbank City Gym. I don't believe there's a Skuntank in this cube, but I will check. No, there's no Skuntank that poisons with stadiums in play. There probably are some other poison synergies. But yes. Nothing else too exciting for Slight here. So obviously sad to see the Trevor and the Timer Ball go, but they're just generic consistency pieces. Versus Seeker is a much more versatile card. So definitely happy to pick that one up here. Just a shame for Slight, both the Heat Factory and the Scorched Earth are gone. So we'll need to see what supporters, what stadiums Slight might actually be interested in picking up. Potentially something like Training Court. Oh, there's the Hippowdon level X, right on time. So I'd imagine Slight's very happy to see that. Pick 6, very late to see in the pack, so there's actually potential to pick up a second one later in the draft, as this is quite the sign that no one else is on Hippowdon at the moment. Potentially the 2 other people that haven't seen this pack yet, but chances are no one else is on Hippowdon. So a great pickup here, and definitely makes that Premier Ball pick that Slight picked earlier much better, having an extra target. And Premier Ball, I guess, is Pokemon recovery in a way, being able to get the level X's back from the discard pile. It's a very versatile card. I guess, speaking of card stadiums, there's the Stark Mountain that Slight would also quite like to have, being able to move fire and fighting energy between your Pokemon. Very strong, as it does look like we're potentially on a fire and fighting deck. Firefighting and water, by the looks of it. So the Salamence being both fire and water, the Glaceon being water, the Ninetales being fire, and then the fighting coming in with the Hippowdon. Yes, very interesting. Slight, what will you wheel here? I don't see him wheeling the Rowan or the Custform, sadly. They would probably be the other cards that are interesting, along with the Stark Mountain. I know someone else picked up Scorched Earth earlier, so they might end up with the Stark Mountain as well. But yeah, Stark Mountain would be a great wheel if that could happen. The cards in the pack are good enough that it is possible it wheels. You know, when the pack's filled with evolving basics and cards like Professor Rowan, you'd never expect something like Rowan to wheel or Castform or... But when they're filled with line toppers and powerful cards like Stormy Mountain, Yanmega, Meat Prime, Blossom, you know, there's a much higher chance they do wheel. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Waiting for one more person before we pass. But yes, Slight with 5 supporters halfway through pack 3. I know like 14-ish supporters, 13, 14 supporters is quite a good spot to be. So definitely a bit behind there. That being said, the Ninetales can fill that role for consistency a fair bit. If there's a high count of basic fire energy in the deck, so might have to rely on that more than you would hope for. Oh, now this is interesting. This pack must have been insane because this Ninetales has the Bright Look ability, which lets you gust one of your opponent's benched Pokemon when you evolve it, which is incredibly strong. Just find that here real quick. Here we go, Bright Look. Very, very strong. There's also the Night Stretcher, very good recovery piece, getting back Pokemon or energy. Seeker is a very good supporter. Both players return one of their bench Pokemon to their hand. Slight might be leaning towards the Hippowdon though. A very high health stage 1, 130 HP. And decent attacks, 3 for 70, 4 for 90. It's not bad. But the good thing about this Hippowdon is, especially that first attack, only needing 1 fighting energy to use Sand Bazooka, it lets it fit into multi-type decks very well. And we DC Slight. Picking that Hippowdon, definitely committing to that Hippowdon level X that he just picked up. I believe he has 2 Hippopotas, so he's got a 2-2-1 line of Hippowdon level X. Look at that, he's sorting his draft now, so he's trying to figure out what he's got. Don't blame him. But yeah, must be an insane pack if the Ninetales especially is making it this far through. His Gust is very strong. And imagine Slight is quite sad to see that Ninetales go, especially as he's already on the Roast Reveal Ninetales. That would have fitted very well into his deck. We do see another Eevee going, so getting increasingly harder to find the EVs needed to support the Glaceon level X. And then even just Avery. Avery's a weird card in Cube. It can be crippling if your opponent requires all their Pokemon in play, their engine. But at the same time, with cards like Jirachi EX, Lapras, Legend Maker, being able to discard those or give your opponent the opportunity to discard those, you can be helping them rather than hindering them. We do see a pick 8 Palmer's contribution, which I'm sure Slight is very happy about. Set your discard pile for up to 5 Pokemon or basic energy. Shuffle them into your deck. A very good recovery piece. It's on a supporter, which is not great, but it recovers a lot. So this might be enough recovery. Palmer's with a Versus Seeker if needed, and the Permeable to get back level X Pokemon. Certainly strong. There is the Switch cart in this pack, which is interesting. Very strong in the big basic strategies, whether it be SP or AMU. Being both a Switch card and Heal 30 is very powerful at this power level. And nothing else too notable. Just decent supporters like Castaway. A couple of evolving basics. Yeah, nothing too crazy. Slight's very happy to pick up this Palmas, I can tell. Which you wouldn't normally be excited about. It's only a Palmas. I'm sure you'd much rather have like an ordinary rod or a super rod or a rescue stretcher, but I mean, potentially the Palmas is better, being your only piece. Just having a bigger one, even though it is a supporter. And I guess with the item finder as well, actually, there's multiple ways to recur this, so that's one thing off the list. Now it's just stadiums. Slight needs at least 1 stadium. You do not want to be running in this cube without stadiums. I'm just going to have a look to see what's left. Silent Lab potentially could be interesting. Turning off abilities, in this case, powers and bodies of all basic Pokemon. So I don't think Slight has many, just the... I guess he does have the Mantine Delta actually, so that would be a bit annoying. Tough one. Viridian Forest. Just something generically good like this. I'm sure Slight wouldn't mind to have. Especially as it synergizes with the Hippowdon. Or the Training Court potentially to synergize with the Ninetales. Just always having that fire energy to discard. So we do see the Shelgon wheel. I question whether Slight even needs it at this point, because I believe he's got 2 Bagon, 2 Shelgon, and 1 Salamence. Does he need a 3rd Shelgon, given that he's not got any more Salamence at the moment? Is it just the Eevee pick? it might be an Eevee pick. And it's a good sign that the Eevee has wheeled. It shows that potentially no one else is on the evolutions, or they've already got all the EVs they need. Of course, it might just be they're hoping to wheel the EV, and Slight taking that is going to hurt their draft a bit. I do like the EV pickup here. I think it makes more sense over the Shelgon. Having that 1/1/1 Glaceon level X line on play. So we've got Glaceon, Hippowdon, Ninetales, Salamence. 4 different lines. Spanning, you've got fire, water, and fighting, 3 different types. So potentially hitting for weakness on a lot of different things. Also the Bagon in the pack. Didn't see that one there. No one picking up this Lantern though. I'm a big fan of this Lantern. I said it earlier, I'll say it again. 2 for 50, 110 HP, like, it's not your main attacker in a deck, but it's just efficient. It's something you put out there, start pressuring while you power up something else. That might be my low power brain working. Maybe the cube is higher power level than I think, but I just feel like it's a really good card. No one picking up that Crush Draw Tyranitar either. Perhaps the Delcatty and the Mantine both going in pack 1, I believe it was. It's hard to enable something like Crush Draw now. So potentially Tyranitar's open, or perhaps Crush Draw just doesn't fit with the rest of the Tyranitar line. It's more just an engine piece by itself. Like we're passing this pack. We'll see if anything good wheels. Let's have a look. Praying for a Stark Mountain, praying for a Heat Factory. I can't remember which pack the Heat Factory was in, but that would be a great wheel if it does come back around. Hippopotas, not bad. Surprised to see the Azov level X here. Thought the AMU player would pick that up. It might be they've not picked up any Mesprits yet. Maybe they think someone else has picked up Mesprits. Of course, we know that Mesprits haven't gone in the first 2 packs, but they don't necessarily know that. They might be like, it's time to pivot. Don't have a Mesprit level X by the end of pack 3, so I'm gonna pick something else. That does make sense. Yes, Slight. Happy to pick up another Hippopotas here. I think he's got 2 Hippowdon. Is that right? Yes, 2 Hippowdon, 1 Hippowdon up next. And now 3 Hippopotas. Which other Hippowdon would Slight want? Potentially both. He's got the Sand Bazooka. This one's very strong, especially combined with the vacuum, or is it the Sand Reset that the level X has, with the built-in energy acceleration. He's got the Save Sand Hippowdon, and the other one, there's 2 Save Sand, so potentially being able to get a second Save Sand Hippowdon could be very strong here. Well, nothing good for Slight. Picking up that Lantern though, recognizing that it's a decent attacker in its own right. I am surprised no one's picking up these Lanterns. I think they're efficient. I know I've said this before, but this one's also a good control piece, being able to shuffle 4 item cards from your discard pile back into your deck. But no one's on Lantern. which in theory makes fighting a bit worse, because Lantern's one of the lions weak to fighting. Of course, Amphoroses are being picked up. I think it's a Mysterious player who's picked up the Amphoros pieces, so fighting certainly good into that. Right, I'm just going to let this pack play out, and I'll be back with you for pack 4. Is that a stadium? I think that's a stadium. To be honest, I don't know what that stadium does, so let's go and have a look. Academy at night. Ooh, interesting. So there's actually some synergy here with the elements. I can see why no one else picked this, because it's not that great an effect, but there is some synergy here. It's not helping the opponent that much. Wow, the Stark Mountain wheel as well. Right, so this has been a very good round of packs for Slight. He's got his Glacian line sorted out. He's expanded his Hippowdon line. He's got the recovery he needs, picked up a couple of consistency supporters, the research, and crucially getting 2 stadiums, both of which are actually beneficial for his deck, which is, yes, very good to see. It's definitely good for Slight here. And wheeling an Eevee as the last pick. Wow. Could not hope for a better last pick there. I wonder if Slight will want to pick up the second Glacian if it comes around. The Snowcloak. Which one does he have? He's got the... Yes, the Frostwind Iceblade, so... Let's see if this second one ever shows itself. Alright, we are on pack number 4. There are 5 packs in total, so this is the penultimate pack. Nothing crazy. Birdkeeper, Yes, it's like immediately picking the bird keeper. Draw 3 and switch is very strong. Switch effects are strong. Draw 3's consistency. You're never sad to see a bird keeper. There's also the Chatot, one of my favorite supporting basics with the Mimic. 0 energy, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw cards equal to the number of cards in your opponent's hand, which is great, especially with the free retreat. We do see a Nest Ball going. Fighting Fury Belt, very strong for the big basics decks. Yeah, not much else, lots of evolving basics. There is the Dialga, which is an interesting card. Item lock for 2 energy, and then it's 3 energy 50. It does 20 more if they already have damage counters on, I believe. But more importantly, the level X, each Pokemon can't use any Pokebodies. Now, I believe there's a rule in this cube where you can't... Time Crystal's not active unless you've got 3 SP Pokemon in play. So this can't really just be slotted into any deck. You need to be playing an SP deck if you want to make use of the Time Crystal Pokebody. But this can be very strong, especially turning off lines like Ampharos with their conductivity and their, what's it called? Power Bind. I think Power Bind's in here. Let's have a look. Conductivity, Energy Connect. Click Energy Connect again. Jamming. Yeah, Damage Bind, sorry, that's the one. Damage Bind. Speaking of Dialga level X, we do see one in this pack. There's a Brock Script there. If we need even more energy recovery. Cool Energy is a really good consistency piece. You can, if it's attached to your active Pokemon, you can use its effect to search your deck for 2 basic Pokemon, put them on your bench. But your turn does end if you do that. So it sort of gives your active Pokemon an attack, but done in a weird way. Actually going for the Vulcaner's Philosophy, I guess slight recognizing he's not got that many consistency supporters. What did he actually... Yeah, he got the Bird Keeper there. And the Vulcaner's another great consistency supporter. Definitely the primary focus at the moment. As I think the attacking line is pretty solid. The Salamence, the 2 Hippowdon, the Glaceon. Along with some recovery, that should be enough. There's the second Electivire FB. So see if that makes its way to Jules, who was the one with the level X. Celia's Network, another great supporter for searching for Pokemon. And Sableye, one of the coolest Pokemon ever printed. If you start with it, you go first. Ignoring the result of the coin flip, which was really cool. And Impersonate, letting you search your deck for supporters and discard them, and then use it as the effect of this attack, can be very strong. Especially when coupled with effects like Cyrus's Initiative. It's one of my favorites, which I believe is in here. Yep. Flip coins for each heads, put a card from your opponent's hand onto the bottom of their deck. If you go first and use Cyrus's and put to the bottom of their deck their only supporter, you can really hinder people's setup. Right, everyone's made their pick, so let's see what's in pick 3 of pack 4. Well, there is another Hippowdon. Wouldn't be surprised to see Slight pick that up. Other great cards here is EXP Share. Being able to keep energy in play. Every time your active Pokemon's knocked out, you can move an energy there to the Pokemon that has the EXP Share. But Slight actually going for Winona, which is interesting. I guess this can get Bagon, it can get Shelgon, it can get Salamence, it can also get Eevee. So yeah, I think Slight recognizing this Hippowdon is likely worse than the 2 Hippowdon he's got in terms of attacking power, and it's got less health. Recognizing that he's prioritizing consistency here over having more attackers, which makes a lot of sense. Even if it is just for that Salamence line and the Eevee. I wonder if Slight would like to pick up a rare candy at some point. Just having Karina to be able to search for it, potentially chaining Winona and then into Karina to get that turn 2 Salamence could be quite strong. It's the basic search, I think, Slight's missing now. So I can see, yeah, Winona's good at getting the Bagon and the Eevee. There's just no way to search for Mantine. There's no way to, I guess there's BB search, but you don't really want a BB search for basics unless you've got no choice. Yeah, love to see like a Holan Mentor or a Collector or Razan's Research. Even a Nest Ball or a Quick Ball would help this draft out a lot. Because the other option is just picking up more of the basics and drawing into them. You know, play 4 Hippopotas with your 2 Hippowdon. That way when you Professor's Research or Zinnia's or Birdkeeper, you're more likely to draw into the basic naturally. That's the other way Slight can get around this. But I think the cool thing with this deck is there's not necessarily much urgency to start swinging straight out the gate. Having that Sand Reset on the Hippowdon level X, even though it's only once per game, being able to reset the board state, even if he falls behind on attachments, can quickly catch back up, provided he's got a strong setup. And what would play right into that is actually the Scramble energy, potentially being able to go behind in prizes, do a Sand Reset, attach that Scramble energy, while behind on prize cards and attached to an Evolve Pokemon, actually counts as 3 energy of any type, which can be very punishing once you've just Sand Resetted all of your opponent's energy back into their deck. Slight actually opting for Copycat now, changing his mind. That's fine. It's also the Power Hand, which would also play into that play from behind strategy, Sand Reset into Power, a key consistency piece, for example. But yeah, actually going for that Scramble energy, which I think makes a lot of sense. I do see this as a deck that potentially gives the first couple of prize cards, and really leans into that Sand Reset. Make sure you've got your Salamence online with your Mantine before committing it. Get your Scramble energy and just go crazy. We do see the third Gengar Prime there. I believe it was Jules who had the Gengar Primes with their Electivire FB level X. So which way are we passing? We're passing pack 4 to the left. Don't know, Jules might have passed that, but I think they've already got 2 Gengar Primes, so yeah, probably don't need a third one. Oh my goodness. This is a very strong pack. Considering this is pick 5, there are some very, very good pieces here. The Junkarm stands out. Discard 2 cards, get back a trainer card, but as this was the Heart Gold, Soul Silver printing era, I think it's just item cards in this cube, but still very strong. And that would count tool cards as well, just not supporters. Time Space Distortion, flip 3 coins, recover a Pokemon for each heads. Very, very strong. Even if you get back just 1 Pokemon, flipping 1 heads, you know, that's like a rescue stretch, alright, which is good. And in the case you flip 2 or 3, this card is just insane. We do see Slight going straight for that. Especially with the item finder, like I can see Time Space Distortion being potentially one of the best cards to get back later in the game. And Slight's attacking lineup is quite slim. 2 Hippowdon, the Glacian, Salamence is more of a supporting piece. But this really helps, it will really help chain those attackers, even if it's just the same one, over and over again. Another Scramble Energy gone, which it's probably sad to see go, but I do think the time-space distortion makes a lot of sense. There is the Darkrai with Darkness Shade. Is it Darkness Shade? Yeah. When you bench it, put the opponent's active to sleep, which can randomly win games. If they don't have a switch out and they stay asleep, it's a very flippy card. Very strong. Ooh. Now, there's another Ninetales that I wonder if Slight can fit that in his deck. So I believe, let me bring it up here. The retreat cost of each of your Pokemon that has any fire energy attached is 2 less. And it also does 2 for 60 with 120 HP. That's a lot of health, it's a lot of damage, and it's got a relevant ability. I think Slight's only got 1 Vulpix, but you know, there's still time to pick up another one. I would like to see this make its way into the deck, just as an efficient attacker, but also providing that retreat cost reduction across the board, and we do see Slight picking that up now. There is the Cursed Gengar here, which is one of my favorite stage 2s from the Diamond and Pearl era. Just the Shadow Skip, 60 damage, and then you can switch to the bench is really, really cool. And then Tool Scrapper, it's just a worse Field Blower. We saw the Field Blowers and the Windstorms going around, so not surprised to see that here. Nothing else too notable. Talked about Cool Energy and Power Spray already. Don't actually know what Lacey does, so I'm going to have a look. Lacey. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 4. Interesting. I could see this being decent in Cube. Especially as there's not many multi-prize Pokemon in this specific Cube. You know, it is going to come online at some point. I guess the downside is, you know, if you draw this in your opening hand, it's not a good supporter. So generally supporters that are good for more portions of the game are better, even if their, you know, best payoff is worse than something like Lacey. It's like an inconsistent consistency supporter, and we do see Slight actually unchecking the Ninetales, perhaps realizing it's not needed. Not sure what else he'd be considering though, maybe the Call Energy or the Research. Yeah, we'll have to see. Actually opting for that Lacey, interesting, so I was just talking about it. I guess playing with that play from behind strategy, this leans into that even more, in a way. Although you can still play this if you're ahead on prizes. It's just, yeah, it's like really valuing these consistency supporters. Speaking of play from behind supporters, there is a Twins. If you're behind on prize cards, search your deck for energy cards. A really, really good card if you're playing from behind, especially paired with the Scramble Energy Slight's got, the Sandry set. I'd really like to see that picked up. That being said, I know Slight is a huge fan of Sabrina's Gaze. Each player shuffles their hand into their deck and draws the same number of cards, which could also be devastating for Sandry set play. But actually opting for the Jewel Ball, I was talking about how basic search is very light in the draft pool that Slight's assembled so far. So while not the best, you know, on average you're going to flip 1 heads. Being able to search for basics, consistency, and consistency wins games. You can just lose if you can't set up in Cube. So this is why Slight's better than I am. I would take the Twins for the high roll play, but Slight recognizes that he just needs to play the game, and his deck will do the work. Right. Oh, 2 Salamence in 1 pack. Yeah, I do feel like Slight is going to go for one of these. Let's have a look and see which one he's going to take. So it's gone full Storm. Make your opponent discard down to 4 cards each turn, and then it does 4 for 90. Not bad. Weak to Dragon, so effectively no weakness in this cube, as I believe this is the only Dragon Pokemon in the cube. And then there is the Salamence EX, which The retreat cost of all of your Pokemon, excluding EX Pokemon, is 0. Very strong. This one's got a higher damage ceiling, being able to do 4 for 120. You're now one-shotting basically every stage 1 in the cube. So I wouldn't be surprised if Slight goes for this, just to have that extra reach. That being said, he does have the reach with the Kukui and the Expert Belt already. But actually combining Bright Flame with Kukui, with Expert Belt, potentially reaching up to 160 damage, which I believe one-shots basically everything in the cube. Especially as this potentially, imagine this is your last. Your opponent's got 1 prize card left, and you promote a Salamence EX with an Expert Belt. Who cares if it gives up three prize cards? Like, they've only got 1 prize card left to take, so 180 HP is just insane. So, yeah, I think this makes a lot of sense. Just having that higher damage ceiling, whereas the other Salamence, 4 for 90, is not that spectacular. But yes. I don't think Slight would even play 3 Salamence if he had them, so probably not too upset that they're in the same pack, actually. Just happy to pick up that Salamence EX and give some real ceiling to the lineup. We do see the Heavy Ball here pick up, which is really cool with the Hippowdon line. I believe many of the Hippopotas have a retreat cost of 3 or more. Yeah, the 11th hour tackle's got a retreat of 3 or more. This one doesn't. Neither does that one, actually. But all of the Hippowdons have a retreat of 3 or more. So being able to get Hippopotas, Hippowdon, it's very good. We do see another Bagon there. So many Bagons coming around. No one is on Salamence, but I think Slight's happy with what's looking to be a 2-2-2 line of Salamence, prioritizing the top acceleration early in the game, I'd imagine, and then having that EX around as a late game finisher. Especially combined with the Shaman he's got, actually, to just, whip up a Bright Flame out of nowhere. Can be very strong. So I believe we're going to start seeing wheeled cards now. Had this pack already wheeled? No. This next pick should be the first. We'll have a look. Alright, there's another Hippopotas. I don't think Slight wants anything else in the pack, so it should be quite a straightforward pick for him. I think I'm going to take this opportunity to have a look at other people's pools again. So I'm going to start with Mysterious Player. Let's have a look. Of course, everyone's sorted their draft pool now, so it's a bit harder to work out what's going on. So, like a 3-3-2 Ampharos line. Dusk Noir in there. We've definitely got an Ampharos player in Mysterious Player. Let's have a look at Kaleido Phoenix. The Leafeon level X. Able to pick up that double gust, a couple of Shelgon, Mesprit level X. Let's have a look at fruits. Picking up both the Dialga Gs, so I wonder if fruits is pivoting to some sort of SP strategy. Also with the Palkia G level X. It's very interesting. PCL as well, very strong. Especially if you can get some metal energy. Jules. What was this? This was the Gengar Electivire FP deck, potentially. Yeah, they did pick up that third Gengar Prime, which is really cool. And to catch a... It would be really cool to see a Lost World deck? Because I don't think we've seen that in this cube yet. Even though it's been around for a while. Lider. Going for Honchkrow, it seems like. 4 Murkrow, 2 Honchkrow, and a level X. 2 Sensations Crystal. This looks like a very strong deck. Honchkrow, a lot of people's like Honchkrow in cube. It's just a very versatile line. And actually picking up another Murkrow here, as we can see. Zach, on the Metagross, got 3 Metagross. What else is going on? It just looks like Metagross. Could be missing something. Metagross Lantern. Cool. And Exalt, finally. Reap. What is going on with Exalt? Yanmega. This might be a Yanmega deck. Yanmega and Consistency. I'm not sure. All these decks will be available on CubeCoga when the game starts, so we'll be able to see exactly what everyone has assembled, as well as what cards they've decided to exclude from the deck, even though they drafted them. I did see Slight actually wield that Hippowdon, so we'll see if that makes its way into the deck. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't at this point, but maybe it makes its way into the deck just as price insurance, you know? Just ensuring you can really get into that Hippowdon level X. I don't think we've seen the second Hippowdon level X be opened by anyone yet. So it'll be interesting to see if that does show itself in the 5th pack. I'd imagine Slight will be able to get his hands on that. Of course, having access to 2 level X's just increases consistency. And the double shoot attack's actually quite strong. Being able to snipe 40 to 2 different Pokemon. And it pairs very well with the Glaceon, actually, which can spread 20 on a coin flip. Flannery, Cyrus's Initiative, and Splash Energy. Slight actually has a decision to make, which is rare at this point in a pack. Splash Energy can get back the Glaceon line, which is interesting. But Slight opting for the Flannery, discard a special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon and discard a Stadium in play. Disruption's always good. It's very good at getting rid of Holon's Pokemon, very punishing. Double Rainbows, Twin Energies. Special Energy Disruption is very good. And potentially means Slight could cut a Stadium now, as Flannery can also get rid of Stadiums. And there's the Curse Gengar. The power level might be... I think the thing with Gengar in this cube is there's 3 Gengar Prime, and then there's the Curse Gengar. So it's like they're kind of doing different things. Like the Curse Gengar is a good Pokemon. And you can play it as a 1/1/1 line quite easily. I think it fits into a lot of decks. But I know a lot of people aren't comfortable playing 1/1/1 lines, so it's a really cool card. I love this card. We do see the fossils just wheeling for days though, so looks like no one's going the fossil route, sadly. Even though Primal Tentacles can, you know, do some big damage in the late game. We do see an Alolan Vulpix pick up. I believe this, as per the cube rules, can evolve into Ninetales. So that's always good. Sadly not the Beacon, Alolan Vulpix. This one being protected on bench isn't completely irrelevant. It's like just happy to potentially have another Vulpix to go into Ninetales with. Alright, so we do see the second, what was it, Save Sand Hippowdon? But yeah, Slight immediately opting for that Luxury Ball, being able to search for any Pokemon that isn't a level X from your deck. A very, very good consistency item. Of course, you can't play it if you've already got a Luxury Ball in your discard pile, but that's largely irrelevant, as I think there's only one in the cube anyway. We'll have to see if that Hippowdon wheels. I think if it does, Slight will pick it up. I think it's better than the other one he picked up. He'd rather play 2 of this one, and then the Sand Bazooka Hippowdon. Other good cards in this pack are the Trader. That's not going to wheel, just basically Pokemon communication, but the WotC version. Curse Stone, if someone's playing a spread strategy. And also the Dust Noir, which is very good line topper for the Dust Noir line. Everything else is just evolving basics. Oh yes. Imagine Zach. I don't think Zach needs any more Beldums or Matangs either, though. So I think by the time this gets to Zach, that's going to be what he's stuck with, but that's fine. Yeah, definitely happy with the luxury balls here, because the rest of the pack is really not that good. So it's definitely, I mean, trader would have been fine as well, but luxury ball is like a premium card. You don't see luxury balls being passed very often. So let's have a look at Slight's deck structure so far. So we can see in this right column here his deck count. So he's up to 49 cards without basic energy. Those are probably the cards he's considering. I'm sure not all the cards will make the cut. Yeah, 12 supporters. I'd imagine he still wants a couple more of those, especially as some of them are a bit situational. For example, the Palmers and what was it, the Lacey, which is much better later in the game. Just having a couple more early game consistency supporters to ensure Slight gets in the game, I'm sure will be priority as we head into this final pack. Dum dum dum! There's a welder in the pack. See, welder in this cube specifically is much better than blacksmith. Blacksmith only attaches to fire Pokemon, so you're kind of restricted to that Ninetales line. Whereas welder can be attached anywhere. Now we do see Slight going for the consistency in Ultra Ball, which is also another great pick. Perhaps there's too much Hippo in Slight's deck to lean on fire that much. I can see the Ninetales with Roast Reveal is still selected currently, but potentially that will get cut from the draft. Just lean into more Hippo stuff. Hippo Salamence seems decent. And what's Hippowdon weak to? Hippowdon is weak to water. And what's water weak to? There's not that much water in the cube, so maybe that makes Hippowdon quite interesting. Obviously, there's the Palkias. But if no one's on Amistar, and Weavile's more of a supporting line, the weakness element isn't going to come up that bad for Slight here. Be interesting to see if Slight can get any more of these consistency supporters, or potentially some hand disruption, which is another thing he's lacking at the moment. Would be very strong with the Sandry set, actually. Sandry set N, for example, attach Scramble Energy, go from there. That would really round out this deck. Unfortunately, we are on the last pack, and hand disruption pieces are taken very highly. So yeah, if he is going to get a hand disruption piece, I'd imagine it's something like Looker's rather than N, which is premium. We do see the second Hippowdon level X. There's also a Legend Awakened Azelf, which is really, really good at fixing your prizes. And we do see Slight actually switching for that. I think recognizing that he only needs one Hippowdon in his deck. If the Hippowdon's prized, he can Azelf for it now. So Azelf fixes that. More importantly, you know the position of all your face-down prize cards with Azelf. So anything that's in there that you need, potentially Expert Belt, Kukui, you can get them when you need them. You don't run the risk of it being the last prize. It's of course Azov's prized as well, and you don't get to play it, but Azov, a very strong card. Seeing it pick 3 in the last pack, you'd imagine that I think it's who's passing. Zach and Exalt must have picked some very good cards if they're passing the Azov. We do see the Mesprit level X coming through. I do think we would have had an AMU player if those had shown up earlier, but I think they're in the last 2 packs, unfortunately, so just a bit late to commit to the Mesprit level X strategy, unfortunately. I think it was Exalt going for that. I can't quite remember. But yes, we're passing. Let's have a look what the 4th pick from pack 5 will be. And there is the Perugly G, actually, which I believe was a superstar in Slight's Cube League win of this cube. So I'm sure he'll be sad to see that one go. Right. Hapu, it's interesting. There's the second Glacian in the last pack. Slight has got 2 EVs, so wouldn't be surprised to see him pick that up just as a consistency piece. Make it more reliable to get into that Glacian level X line. Of course, there is the Erica, a very strong trainer. Both players draw 3 cards effectively, but your opponent can choose not to if they want. But yeah, Slight opting for that Glacian. Can also just randomly win games with its Snow Cloak. Flip a coin of heads, prevent effects of all attacks, including damage done to Glacian. You know, you don't want to have to rely on it, but sometimes it gives you an out where there wouldn't be one ordinarily. Just flip a couple of heads and then clean up from there. There's the Palkia G level X here. So of course, a Powdon being weak to water, that could have been a hate draft. But obviously showing up in the pack with the Glaceon, you don't want anyone to have Glaceon either. And then yeah, here's the Airmail Pidgeotto. Be sad if no one plays the Airmail Pidgeotto, because it's pretty good. And here come all the fossil guys. That's really sad. So we just had the Kabutops, and then here we've got the Kabutops and the Omastar, so not really giving anyone an opportunity to commit to fossils this draft. But that's why it's important to have so many different lines in your cube. You don't know what order the Pokemon are going to appear in. You're always going to expect, you know, a handful of lines to not be played every draft, even playing with 8 players. Just in this case, it happened to be the fossil guys. So it's like picking up another Shelgon here. This one is a colorless Shelgon, which is great for Winona, being able to search that out. There's nothing else here that would be too exciting, potentially the rare candy. But if Slight's taking it slow, then rare candy's not really needed. Potentially just playing a thicker Shelgon line is better. Fluffy Berry, Slight's already got the Salamence EX for free retreat and the Floatstone, so that's a bit redundant. Escape Rope can be a really strong card, especially combined with snipe effects like Hippowdon, actually. If your opponent's got... Let's have a look at Hippowdon level X before I start talking. Yeah, because it double shoot only targets the bench, but if their active's got 40 or less health, and you also want to take out something else, you know, Escape Rope, double shoot can be very strong. But picking up the Shelgon, I believe this one's actually got a good attack if you're playing both water and fire energy. So let me just find it real quick. This one. Got that. 60 damage for 3. We've got another fossil guy. The 4th Salamence here. but Slight just opting for the Faber. I think the problem with this Salamence is its best attack needs 2 fire and 2 water energy. Of course, with the Hippowdon line, there's going to be a number of fighting energy in this deck, so it's difficult to actually support that. Faber is just a great card. Being able to remove special energy, tools, or stadium cards, I believe, and put them in the loss zone, meaning they can't get them back. I wouldn't be surprised if this just replaces the Flannery that Slight drafted earlier. Could run both, but I feel like Faber is just better, although Flannery can discard a special energy and a stadium. But I do feel like Faber is the better pick. There's also Enhanced Hammer in this pack, which is one of my favorite cards to play in Cube. Just being able to discard a special energy and an item can really ruin people's days. Makes people think twice about putting their Holon Pokemon into play. Double Rainbow Energy, Scramble. Pretty cool card. We do see one of the item locking Vileplumes making its way around the table, so potentially a sign that no one's going to be on Vileplume. It's not uncommon for them to double up on the item lock effect. So perhaps Slight will take that in mind when deck building. Perhaps items are still on the table, you know. Right, pick 7 of the last pack. We've only got one more pack we have not seen. That'll be the next pack. Everything else will be packs we've already seen, and we'll be seeing what wheels. Taking the Underground Expedition, a very middling consistency. Well, it's not bad actually. Look at the bottom 4 and put 2 of the cards back in your hand, which is not bad. Not bad. It's like Janine, but for the bottom of your deck, and is a nightmare to resolve on untap, but sometimes that's what you gotta do. Nothing else interesting in this pack. I don't think the weakness policy makes sense in Slight's deck, given his type diversity that he has. It's a shame he wasn't able to pick up the Leafeon level X, because that would have been really good in this deck as well. But having that Glacier level X is still a great supporting attacker to have alongside the Hippowdon line. Right, this is the last pack. Pick 8, Thunder Mountain. That is interesting. You'd have thought the Ampharos player would have picked that up. So unless there's something really good that was in the pack, yeah, I'm surprised to see that here. In terms of what Slight's considering, I guess it's between the Eevee and the Fire Crystal. Fire Crystal, very good for chaining the Ninetales Roast Reveal, and it does look like he is opting for that. Already got 2 Eevee, so potentially no need for a third one. Gardenia is another interesting card. Of course, not having any grass energy makes it hard to enable, and given there are already 3 types, it wouldn't be worth slotting in grass energy just for Gardenia, even though you also have Item Finder and Versus Seeker for Gardenia. Like, that's a very obnoxious thing you can do in this cube. Just chain Gardenia for 3 turns. Yeah, we'll have to see what wheels. In terms of this draft overall, I feel like it's got the pieces, you know, it's got the stadiums, it's got the recovery. It's got a decent amount of Pokemon search. I feel like it's a bit lighter than what Slight would usually be happy with, the Pokemon search. But I think having that Sand Reset playstyle potentially means it's not as important. It's not like you need to get out the gate running with a deck like this. You can play from behind. The synergy piece with Mantine and Salamence is there, so there is energy acceleration. It'll be very interesting to see how Slight does, because Slight, I think, won 3 Cube Leagues this season, and he also won the last Champions Cube. So, can he defend his title with the Hippos, you know? And yeah, Hippowdon's definitely one of the things this cube is known for. I believe it's the cover art picture on Cube Koga. And I don't think we've seen another cube really enable Hippowdon like this cube does. So it'll be great to see how Slight, Master of Cube himself, is able to show us how to play Hippowdon. Just a few picks left. Thank you, everyone who's joined, for watching the draft segment of this. I'm recovering from a cold, as you can probably tell, so it's been a bit tough talking for this long, but we will have 3 rounds of gameplay shortly after this. As soon as the draft is done, there'll be a short break, and then we'll have the gameplay. So yeah, be happy for you to join us for that as well. I'm sure we'll follow Slight for game 1, see how he does, see what he's built, and then we'll go from there. Probably follow someone else for the second round, and then the finals as usual. But yeah, this has been a long draft. We're approaching, can't remember exactly when we started, but it's been a while. In 2 hours 20, something like that. Maybe longer. Let's see what comes back. Maybe we'll take this opportunity. Should we have a look at the other tabs? Let's have a look at the other tabs. So Slight is passing to Mysterious Player. Let's have a look at Mysterious Player. Yeah, this is the Ampharos. So I guess the Thunder Mountain... Is it possible the Thunder Mountain's not reached Mysterious Player yet? No, it must have done. He must have opened it and he's going to wheel it. Okay. Probably recognizing that no one's an Ampharos, no one's on Lantern, and that he can actually wheel the Thunder Mountain. So that does make sense. It looks like he actually picked up a computer search instead of the Thunder Mountain. That makes a lot of sense. Mysterious Player looking like he has a very strong Ampharos deck. Kaleido Phoenix. What is going on here? See Dusknoir level X. I see 2 Mesprit level X. I see an Uxie level X and 1 Azoth level X. Potentially going for Mesprit, even though they weren't able to get the Mesprits until much later in the draft. Let's have a look at Fruits. What's Fruits doing? Fruits with the Weavile, Delcatty, Dialga. Some sort of dark Dialga deck by the looks of it, which is cool. Pretty cool. Jules, let's see if they're still on the Gengar. They are on the Gengar. Gengar, Mew, Electivire FB. Oh no, they've unchecked the Electivire FB. That's a real shame, because I think that card's really, really good. But potentially just not fitting in with their strategy, so. Glider on Hunchcrow. We've got Zac. That's the Metagross Lantern, potentially. Metagross Lantern. And then Exalt. With the pile. I'm going to call this a pile. I've got 3 Ghastly, 3 Haunter, and no Gengar, I want to say. 2 Mega though, so I don't know. We will see. It'll be easier to see once they've actually built their decks, rather than trying to figure it out from this list. So Slight wheeling a Vulpix here. Only got the 1 Ninetales. But yeah, there's nothing else here for him. Potentially, I think this Vulpix has actually got quite a good attack as well. Let's have a look. I think it discards a grass energy from all of your opponent's Pokemon. No. Oh yeah. No. I'm thinking of something else. Find Wildfire is not bad though. Searching for 2 fire energy. Not bad. We do see another Vulpix here. And Mega Turffield Stadium. Maybe no one's on grass. Slight actually opting for the Mega. Probably recognizing doesn't need another Vulpix. And Mega resists fighting, which is annoying for Hippowdon. So, potentially someone's trying to wheel Mega, opting for a bit of hate drafting rather than. Yeah, there's nothing else to take, so hate drafting makes sense here. Taking a Chinchou. Okay. I feel like I'd take the Murkrow. Again, the Honchkrow line resists fighting. The Lantern line's weak to fighting. I just feel like I'd rather take the basic of the line that resists me, but it's a very minor thing and likely not going to matter at all. Don't think Slight has Lantern. No. Wheel the Bagon. I think that's the 3rd Bagon. So I think it's looking like a 3-3-2 Salamence line. With the Salamence EX and the top acceleration Salamence. Just the last few picks to go. Really sad to see these fossil guys at the end. Summerstar's interesting though with the time spiral. Just being able to devolve Pokemon and shuffle it back into their deck can be really cool. They're all here. All the fossil guys are here. So sad. And what will the final card be? Phenomenite. Very fitting. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Yeah, we will be back soon, hopefully, once people have finished deck building, with some games. And we will crown the Season 8 Champions Cube champion later today. Thank you.